Advances in information and communication technologies have changed the way people live and conduct business. In business, profitability is to a large extent a function of efficient and speedy exploitation of technology. The advent of the Internet has revolutionized communication as it has shrunk distance, time, and space. The world is now on a technological roller coaster. Developing countries are on the brink of being left out of the modern, global, and technology-driven village. It was for this reason Tunisia, in 1998, proposed the holding of a summit to examine the creation of an information society which would leapfrog development. This process culminated in the adoption of a United Nations resolution. From 10 to 12 December in 2003, more than 10,000 delegates, including heads of state and government, converged in Geneva for the first phase of the World Summit on the Information Society, which was coordinated by the International Telecommunications Union.
A great deal is at stake in this summit. For the first time, you, the leaders of the world, will be addressing the challenge of the information society, have led to winners and losers. Some countries have action now, existing gaps may be widened. We must not make the same mistakes. By taking the right decisions, we must shape the direction of the information society and create more just, prosperous, and peaceful world. The cornerstone of any project today, be it AIDS eradication for ushering in the information revolution with the legacy of pioneering a truly global information society. Let us bestow on the next generation the gift of information communication technologies for everyone in the global community.
We have in our hands, on our desktops, and in the sky suburb, the ability to improve standards of living for millions of people on this planet. We have the tools that can propel us forward toward the Millennium Development Goals, instruments which we to advance the cause of freedom, democracy, and vehicles with which to propagate knowledge and mutual understanding. We have all this potential. The challenge before this summit is what to do with it. The so-called digital divide is actually several gaps in one.
The digital divide dominated debate, and President Robert Mugabe put the Zimbabwe position to the fore.
In spite of the present global milieu of technological sophistication, we remain a modern world divided by old dichotomies and old asymmetries that make genuine calls for digital solidarity sound hollow. It is a sad, sad story of improved technological means for unimproved human ends. Mr. President, long after we have talked about the need for information and communication technologies as tools with which to contrive the information society, we are soon to discover that receivers and computers are powered by electricity, which is unavailable in a typical third world village. Long after we have talked about connectivity, we are soon to discover that most platforms for electronic communication need basic telecommunication. Where we are lucky to find the villager literate and numerate, we soon discover that he or she is not looking for a computer terminal, but for a morsel of food, an antibiotic to save his dying child, a piece of land on which to eke out an existence, in short, food, health, shelter, and education. Zimbabwe's own ICT efforts have thus been directed at developing Zimbabwe's society as a whole in areas of education, health, where the HIV/AIDS pandemic remains quite a problem, and in other areas where we have tried to improve the elementary skills of our people. For us, e-commerce implies growing economies, trading fairly in barrier-free markets. E-education implies economies run for the people, not for the sake of enriching one or two multinational corporations. E-health implies affordable drugs for affordable health delivery systems that can only be guaranteed by policies that are genuinely national. Yes, e-government implies a sovereign national government that manages top-level domains within its borders and whose preoccupation are its people first and foremost. Yes, for us, e-Zimbabwe means a developing Zimbabwe with a sovereign people, themselves Zimbabweans, and run and developed by them and not by the racial British, Australians or Americans. This is a fundamental principle of our UN Charter enunciated as the right of self-determination, which constitutes a precondition for free e-development in our country.
The Geneva phase closed with the adoption of a declaration of principles and plan of action to be followed on the march to the Tunis meeting. The declaration stressed that it was important to forge ahead, guided by a common desire and commitment to build a people-centered, inclusive and development-oriented information society where everyone can create, access, utilize, and share information and knowledge. It challenged the world to harness the potential of information and communication technologies to promote the development of Millennium Development Goals, which seek to eradicate poverty, hunger, and disease, as well as economically empower marginalized communities, especially those living in rural and remote areas. From 2003 to 2005, the process evolved, and it is agreed that the importance of building a just information society cannot be overemphasized, and three sticking points emerged, namely, the need to democratize internet governance, financing mechanisms for eliminating the digital divide, and operations of the media. And the second phase of the World Summit on the Information Society converged in Tunis, with the sole objective of operationalizing the Geneva Declaration and Plan of Action. President Robert Mugabe, United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, South African President Comrade Thabo Mbeki, and other heads of state and government, representatives of multilateral institutions, private sector, non-governmental organizations, academics, and experts and other interested parties participated during the Tunis phase. Kofi Annan describes the summit as an important milestone in the development of an information society. He spoke of the need for solutions to bridge the digital divide and unleash the benefits of information technologies to all classes of society, poor as well as rich, urban as well as rural. Comrade Mugabe spoke of the need to bridge the digital divide, democratize internet governance, and use of ICTs as tools of development and not destruction.
In order to make another imprint on a journey that began in 1998 with Tunisia's proposal for a global meeting that would promote greater understanding of what is now commonly known as the information society. Indeed, it is fitting that this second phase, or the Tunis phase as it is alternately known, should take place in Africa, where the idea of this summit was born. In that light, I wish to commend the President and people of the Republic of Tunisia for hosting this important global meeting in this beautiful and historic city of Tunis. The Declaration of Principles agreed at the first phase of the World Summit on the Information Society rightly observed that where favorable conditions exist, information and communication technologies can be a useful tool, increasing thereby productivity and improving the quality of life of all our people. It is thus our collective and outstanding challenge to help create the required conditions. Regrettably, the huge potential for economic growth and poverty reduction in many developing countries, including Zimbabwe, is stymied by lack of adequate information and communication technologies, thus marginalizing these countries instead of integrating them into the world economy. On one level, this summit therefore provides an ideal opportunity for the global family of nations to seriously address this need. The same convictions saw heads of state and government of Group 77 and China in the Doha Plan of Action, which was adopted at the second South Summit in June this year, agreeing to support the objectives of the first World Summit on the Information Society. The G77 particularly welcomed the thrust towards universal access to information and knowledge, democratic internet governance, respect for cultural diversity and identity, linguistic diversity, and local content. Similarly, we attach special importance to the establishment of the World Digital Solidarity Fund and trust that it will play a positive role in expanding access by developing countries to ICTs. At the close of the Geneva phase of the WSIS process, we adopted a set of principles that form our common understanding of the information society and approved an action plan to guide us in fully harnessing the development potential of the information and communication technologies. These developments are vital signposts even as we deal with the rapid technological changes that have blurred the distinction between telecommunications, broadcasting, and information technology. In this respect, I believe the WSIS process has achieved one of its initial aims of fostering a greater appreciation of the full range of opportunities presented by ICTs. Zimbabwe has embarked upon a number of national activities aimed at enhancing our capacity to benefit from ICTs. Universities and other tertiary institutions are now largely connected in the National Education Management Information System and also provides access to the Internet. With support from the corporate world, we have initiated the National Computerization Program, which to date has seen about 500 mainly secondary schools computerized across the 10 provinces of our country. We are now working with the International Telecommunications Union to provide training to teachers, even as we examine the possibilities of connecting the schools in the program onto the Internet. Zimbabwe prides herself on a well-established rural electrification program, which is opening new horizons for the use of ICTs in the rural areas. In addition to attracting greater investment into those areas, the technologies have the potential of bringing telemedicine, distance education, and telecommunications to previously remote areas thereby enhancing the quality of life of the people. Zimbabwe is concerned that ICTs continue to be used negatively by merely leading developing countries to undermine national sovereignty, social and cultural values. We should always and also guard against such crimes as child pornography, computer hacking, electronic fraud, and cyber terrorism. Needless to say, these shortcomings erode the confidence that should be growing in the information society. Is it not ironic that because these technologies are getting more pervasive, those who have previously supported a nihilistic and disorderly freedom of expression are now beginning to see the folly of their short-sightedness? Satellite broadcasting and the internet now allow other views to be disseminated to a wider global audience, thereby challenging the bully boy mentality that drives the unipolar world. We also challenge the still undemocratic issue of internet governance, where one or two countries continue to insist on being world policemen on the management and administration of the internet. The World Summit on the Information Society should empower all our countries in their development endeavors and engender confidence in internet users outside Europe and North America by allowing for a more transparent and multilateral approach to internet governance. Indeed, why should our diversified world be beholden to an American company for such a sensitive undertaking? The absence of clear funding mechanisms for the development of ICTs in the third world threatens the very information society we are discussing, since the utility of any communications network is its reach. Without clearly defined financing mechanisms to bridge the digital divide, the information society will not have a meaningful impact in many parts of the developing world. The West's resistance to the development of a specific financing mechanism for the plan of action may spell doom to all the positive things emerging from this process. Should we not suspect that the proposed mechanisms are being rejected, perhaps because they are not part of the facilities managed by the Bretton Woods institutions on the strength of the West's neocolonialist designs? Mr. Chairman, it is also surprising that developed countries continue to frustrate measures such as technology transfer and preferential trade terms that would further advance our information society. After praising the virtues of ICTs, it seems to us that the next step naturally is to ensure that such technologies become widely available. These negative subterfuges have the capacity of weakening the WSIS process and stripping it of the action-oriented approach it has taken. Mr. Chairman, our ongoing debate should recognize that the post-Tunis period will still have the North-South divide that threatens the sustainability of the very aims of the WSIS process. It is imperative, therefore, that greater efforts are undertaken to bridge the digital divide. A supportive United Nations system and a well-designed and financed plan of action, as well as appropriate policies developed through the WSIS, would significantly move us in the direction of bridging the divide. In closing, I would like once more to commend the President and people of Tunisia for showing us the need to fully exploit the benefits of information and communication technologies. Your proposal that began with the WSIS process is a challenge for future developmental efforts. You have done us in Africa, proud. I thank you.
Other leaders spoke with the same passion to see a better world driven by ICTs.
The reason depth of convening the World Summit on Information Society is the recognition by the world leaders, particularly the heads of state and government, the Secretary General of the United Nations, and the heads of UN agencies, the business and community leaders, that the benefits of digital revolution must be extended to all mankind, to all peoples of the planet, irrespective of race, religion, place of birth, political orientation, or sex.
Controversy has arisen over the control and administration of the Internet, which currently rests in the hands of the Internet Corporation on assigned names and numbers, commonly referred to as ICANN. ICANN is a private company which is greatly influenced by the United States Department of Commerce. Developing countries propose that this function be managed by an intergovernmental authority, which the U.S. opposed vehemently. ICANN rakes in billions of dollars for the U.S. economy from its role. The Minister of Transport and Communications, Comrade Christopher Mushoe, says the Tunis summit failed to democratize Internet governance and ICANN's monopoly continues, but a compromise has been struck.
The issue of Internet governance has seen member states resuming the PrepCom 3 that had just ended a month ago in Geneva, where one of the few issues which were not agreed upon was to do with Internet governance. And hence the meeting, the PrepCom 3, resumed here in Tunis 2 days before the heads of states summit started, to try and iron out, negotiate, and tried to agree on sticking issues. Internet governance, as you have rightly alluded to, is under the control and exclusive control of ICANN, an American company which the Americans and some of the EU countries would want the world to believe that it is a private company. But we know that it is a company which squarely and fully fall and answerable to the Department of Commerce of the United States of America.
This development comes in the wake of approval of an ICT policy by Zimbabwe. The Minister of Science and Technology Development, Dr. Olivia Mchena, speaks of benefits to be derived from the new policy.
Coming to Tunis has opened the horizon for us in that in addition to the conference proceedings, there have been an exhibition by many countries and organizations. And out of that total experience, we are going to be mapping out a detailed implementation plan of how Zimbabwe gets integrated into the information society. According to our policy framework document, our vision is to see Zimbabwe become an information and knowledge-based society by year 2020. What this means in practical terms is that we need a program for infrastructure development. For example, where rural electrification is, we should be following with computers. Where PowerTel has its fiber optic lines, we should be making use of multiplying the number of people along the way who should have access to ICTs.
The question of internet content and the conduct of the media also raised considerable debate, with third world countries and Russia calling for the media to be subjected to national laws, while the European Union and United States called for a hands-off approach. Information and Publicity Deputy Minister Comrade Bright Matonga feels freedom of expression must not be synonymous with the freedom to insult and undermine national sovereignty.
Because the source of the internet is in America,